Hello, so another lesson this week from the Brookings Arts Council. As always, my name is Shelby, and today we are going to do some kind of spooky, like Halloween, like festive kinds of projects. So this first one here, we are going to do like the polka dot pumpkin. That's maybe you've seen it online. It's really kind of popular right now, but we're going to start off, so as far as supplies, we have paper. I have 2 sheets for this one because we're going to do a background and like an image that we cut out. I do have scissors this time, so a cutting one this time. I have a pencil. I have some markers. If you want to use crayons, colored pencils, markers, whatever, that's fine with me. I'm going to use markers. And then you might also want, I would recommend markers for this first step here. So this first step here, we're going to start off with a background. And the background to the pumpkin can be, it's going to be like squares and triangles. And you want to fill up that whole background. I'm going to do a little bit of it and I'll show you kind of an example of what I'm doing. So you're going to start off like kind of a grid. So you're going to start off with just a square. And then from there, you can make like triangles or squares just off of one another, like not super regular, like this. And I'll show you in just a minute here. I'll get some down. So you want kind of about this size, and you want to fill the whole paper because it's going to be the background. And you can start off with pencils. If you're worried about making a mistake or you want it to be extra neat, you can start off with pencils and go back through later and add the marker over top. I don't want to like waste the time of doing that, and like it's just the background, so like it is important. Don't think it's not important, but like if there's a couple mistakes, like no one's gonna notice but you anyways, especially here in this middle section because that's where we're gonna end up putting the pumpkin anyways. So I would say get that background done. That's probably the easiest thing to do first, so you can just do the pumpkin, cut it out, and go right in to your next like project from there. So yeah, this is what I got, just some kind of irregular like lines and kind of like using pattern with markers there. So now I'm going to show you this next step, which is the pumpkin that you'll put on this. So when I'm done with this, the final project, I will have like a full background of this with the other piece on top. So I'm going to put that one aside. And then I'm going to show you how to do the pumpkin. So for a pumpkin, we want just kind of a simplified, like not super crazy pumpkin. We're going to start off with like kind of, I'm going to do one line first. I'll do half of it and then you do the other half with it. So like you start off with that. So kind of like the top of how you would start with a heart and a round. The bottom would be down here. I'm just going to do the exact same on the other side. And they meet in the middle. So kind of like a heart top. And mine kind of got a little funky on the bottom there. So I'm just going to fix it up. And if you have an eraser, that'd be great too. I have just an eraser on my pencil. So I'm going to do it that way. Try and do your pumpkin like pretty large. You don't want it super small and little. You want it to fill up like at least half the paper. Mine's a little small. I might actually just redo it. So again, that's what we're shooting for. I just want it bigger. So I'm going to do it big again. And they meet down at the bottom. And again, if the bottom gets a little bit kind of funky, you can always erase and rework it a little bit. Just a little bit better. Okay. So that's what we have for the base of the pumpkin. Next, I'm going to do the stem and a little bit of a leaf. So the stem is thicker on like where it attaches to the pumpkin than where it was like picked from. So that's something to pay attention to. I'll show you in just a minute. And your stem doesn't have to be this big. The stems come in all really kind of different sizes and like directions. Some are straight up and down. Some are crooked like mine is. Not a big deal either way. And then I'm going to have just like a little piece of greenery. And like a leaf. And my leaf I want kind of over top of the pumpkin. So I just got a little bit of like a swirly and then a leaf the stem and then the pumpkin. So the next step here is getting in those kind of sections of the pumpkin. So remember where we started initially with that kind of heart shaped, we're gonna put our pencil back there and we're gonna just draw another line inside to kind of section that pumpkin. So like this, we're gonna do one more and then we'll start going the other direction. So we'll have kind of a football shape down the middle and then lines radiating outwards. So I'll finish that. So that's that next step. So then you'll do these however many lines you want, and then that middle ends up looking like a football, or if you turn it this way, kind of like a generic eye shape. And then I'm gonna continue on with that direction of line. So you get some perspective in there. And that's good. So that is my generic pumpkin. We're gonna do a little bit of shading with our pumpkin. I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but I'll do this first kind of rind of the pumpkin here. I'm actually gonna use colored pencils. I have like fancy Prismacolor ones, but Crayola will work just fine. You just need orange. And yep, so right there. So I'm gonna start off by coloring like the top. So like the top up where the stem is. Orange. And you don't want to color the whole thing completely orange right off the bat. You want to have a little bit, you want some shading. You want it to have some depth. You can outline those pumpkin lines so those rinds are like really kind of distinct. And you want that orange to kind of fade down and fade into the white. So I'll show you kind of what I mean by like an ombre. If you've done those, that's a really common word for it. That's really kind of, a lot of people know what that means, but it's really just shading. So I'll show you that. And this just makes it look like the pumpkin is kind of 3D. So I'll show you that first top part there. So see, it goes from kind of dark orange down to white. I'm gonna do the same up here. This middle kind of circle here is gonna stay pretty white. I might fill it in like yellow, but we want it to look like it's a highlight there. So there's some shading involved. If you don't wanna do the shading, don't feel like you have to, but I think that shading is really fun. So I'm gonna finish up this kind of section here and then we'll move on to the polka dots. So again, like most of the videos, I'm not gonna finish this one in its entirety like in front of you here because you don't want to sit and like listen to me or like watch me color when you could be doing it. So I will post a picture though of my final piece when I'm done so you can see what I mean. But again, you don't want to sit and watch me color for the next couple hours. You'd rather be doing it yourself. So we have kind of that white. If it's helpful, I think like when using colored pencils or crayons when you're shading, I think it's helpful to like hold your pencil from like further back. It just gives you a little bit more control with like pressure, because if you push really hard, you're gonna get kind of lines. And also remember with shading, you can always add more, but you can't really take it away. That gets a little tricky. So you can always layer it up. You can always add more color to it. It can always be darker, but it can't always be lighter. It can't always be that white, crisp paper again without a lot of kind of effort. So I'm just touching mine up. I have that white highlight, and I don't know that I really like it white because it looks kind of fake and like not super realistic. So I'm gonna darken up my shadow underneath and on top. And then I'm gonna add yellow. So I have kind of this like, it's called, what is this called? Like Spanish orange or something, goldenrod. I'm gonna use that, but your just regular yellow should work just fine. I'm not gonna color super dark. So again, we're just kind of making sure that everything's filled in. And you can barely see this kind of goldenrod color, but it's just enough that it looks like finished. It doesn't look like I just stopped coloring. So I'll have that final piece. So that's what we got for that section. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest with all of these. This one, like the very end pieces, you'll have like this dark all the way around, and like this highlight will be more in here because you want the shadow all the way around the edge there. Same with over on this side. You can color in that leaf and the stem as well. Just brown and green, like the same kind of shading if you want, or just color them in however you'd wish for. And then the last step there is to use a black marker, and you're gonna add polka dots. And I'm not gonna add polka dots just yet because I'm still coloring mine, but when you're done coloring completely, you should be able to add polka dots. I think just like a regular like Crayola black marker should work just fine. But I want you to pay attention to like the different kind of rings of that pumpkin. You'll outline the different sections, and you'll add polka dots and like designs, so Zentangles if you want, to those sections. When you are completely done with that pumpkin, you will cut it out with your scissors. You'll cut out the very outline of this pumpkin, and you're gonna glue it down in the smack dab middle of this paper. So you'll have a pattern background and then kind of a funky, cool pattern pumpkin as well. So that's what I have for you today. Again, I'll post what I have. If you're interested in like finding us on Facebook or emailing us your ideas or like finished product, please feel free to. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. So have a good night, and you'll see me next time.